And now, right to your host of this House of Musicians, Mr. Barry Smith.
Hey, good evening, fine listener, and welcome to this House of Musicians radio show on Reality Radio 101. We hope you enjoy the next hour with us as we do our small part to help promote musicians, bands, and venues. Gary Labar, how are you this evening, sir?
I am fine. How are you, sir?
I'm stoked this evening. We have two-time Juno Award-winning songwriter and bass player on this evening's show, Mr. Darryl James. Darryl, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Barry, for having me. I really appreciate it. Happy to be here.
Not a problem at all. I remember my wife and I going to see Blue Rodeo a couple of years back in Oshawa, and that's the first time I was actually introduced to you guys, seeing you guys on stage. A high energy band, happy band, and just amazing songs. So we're honored to have you here, Darryl. Thank you for being on the show. Now, let me ask you, let me start with this. How, like I like to ask all the artists when they come on the show, how were you influenced by music when you were a kid? Did your brother have an album collection? Did your dad play guitar? Just curious to how you were introduced to music and maybe what you were listening to.
That's a great question. For me, I think it was like a number of different moments. My mom was just an avid listener, like every morning, the oldies, the Beatles. She had a vinyl collection. I kind of dipped into that. My dad was in a band when he was younger. He's from Bob Cajun, had an old Ludwig kit, a vintage kit. I didn't really get to see him play, but I kind of saw it and played with it in the basement and stuff when I was a kid. But I really wasn't that musical when I was a kid, like other than listening. Like I got introduced, I'm from Lindsay, Ontario. I went to the Academy Theatre and saw like Crash Test Dummies and the Northern Pikes. And again, like I said, just my mom always listening. So I was an avid listener like my whole life, loved it. But didn't start playing until I was probably 19 or 20, started playing acoustic guitar. But, from that early age, I, started with the oldies, the Beatles, and then in a unique way, kind of went into a hip hop phase. There was a big hip hop following in Lindsay when I was sort of in my early teens that got me into, that world and loved that world for a number of years. And then, as I kind of got into my later teens and going to school, I really fell into like, Our Lady Peace and I Mother Earth, and I started to slip away from the hip hop and jumped back in sort of the rock alternative world at that point. So it was kind of all over the place with lots of influences, but not really playing, but just sort of always having a passion and just a love for music from a very young age.
Absolutely. And so were you singing too when you were playing? I think you said around 19 you started playing acoustic. Were you singing at that point?
A little bit, I think, we would just sort of around the campfire sing covers, and I would try to jump in a little bit, but I was, always pretty nervous. It was a lot more jamming just on two chords, and people would, try to solo, and, sometimes we bought other instruments, so we'd have a mandolin or a bass or a djembe drum, and we'd sort of like, 3 or 4 of us would all just kind of like try to jam 2 or 3 chords together. And, slowly we got a little bit better at covers and a little bit better at, just kind of being able to solo and jam around things. And then that's kind of like in my late 20s is when I kind of got introduced. I met Simon, who's the lead singer of the Strumbellas and lead songwriter. And
Simon Ward, yep.
Simon Ward. I was good friends with his brother, Todd, who's my age. We're a couple of years older than Simon. So Simon had moved to the city, and he kind of started joining that group of us that were jamming, playing guitar, and then Simon came in and started, showing melodies and putting top line on different, progressions. And then it just kind of, every day and every week that would evolve. And eventually he was like, I gotta, take on these melodies and start a band. And
wow.
Yeah. And then that's a whole other story that we can jump into.
Yeah, absolutely. Because now I think you're touching on the beginning of the Strumbellas, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I guess now it's 11 years ago, almost 12, that the Strumbellas were formed, and Simon started the band on Craigslist. We were originally kind of like a 12-piece band, I think, with
Huge.
no drums. We had clarinet, banjo, mandolin. It was quite an array of people, and there's a few of us from Lindsay that were sort of in the band. John, the guitarist, he was originally at those jams, and so was I. And then the band kind of over the years, dwindled down. But Dave and Izzy, so Dave's the keyboardist and Izzy's our violinist. They're the original Craigslist members still.
Cool.
From that ad, they stuck around. And then Jeremy, the drummer, he was a kind of like a legend, I guess you could say, in Lindsay. He was like one of those guys that just drummed in like so many bands throughout town. And when we got to a point where we needed a drummer and we were ready, we went right to Jer and said, "Hey man, like, we're starting to get some momentum and we'd like to add drums to the mix." And I think Jared kind of jumped in about a year and a half after we had been sort of playing local market shows and just small stuff around Toronto, really. He jumped in, and then we did a record at that point.
Did a record. Yeah. Amazing. I have to ask, how hard is it? It's hard enough to have 3 or 4 guys in a band. I can't imagine having 11 or 12. And I know you guys, I'm not sure what the number is now, how many people you have in the band, but I remember when I saw you, it was an awful lot. So I just can't imagine how hard it would be to get everybody on the same time schedule to rehearse and do whatever. I'm sure it would be a little easier if everyone's getting paid okay to do it. But just when you're first starting out and, you're trying to jam and rehearse stuff, it's got to be very difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. That was really the challenge at the start when we had those large numbers of 10, 12. It was just like, you get some people here, some people there, and trying to prepare for a show was hard because not everyone would show up, or you weren't sure who would show up to the show. So that's kind of why it dwindled down a little bit. And we are 6-piece right now, so we are still a big band. And I will not deny that it is very difficult with 6 people, 6 people with different ideas and different sort of goals and at different life stages. It's hard to find common ground, but we work very hard at just kind of, I guess, keeping an open mind and listening. And we've been 12 years to this point that I think we're slowly figuring it. We're much better than we were at the start, that's for sure.
Yeah, and that's going to happen too. More rehearsing, more live gigs. You gain a lot of experience. But it's interesting to me that I'm going to ask, probably when you were 20, you had, or maybe even 25, you had no idea you'd be touring the world with a band opening up for Blue Rodeo, because you didn't get involved in it until you were 29 or 30 or whatever, correct?
Yeah, no, I absolutely. I had never been a bass player or been in a band before the Strumbellas. This is my first band, first time playing bass. And I just thought this would be a hobby. Like, this would just kind of be something that, we do around Toronto, and it was super fun. Like I said, I've loved music my whole life. And once I got this sort of taste for playing live, it just grew and grew and grew how much I loved it. And, and then I do have the work ethic. I've always been someone that isn't scared to put in the time. And I also, in those early days, I brought a lot to the band as far as I ran my own business beforehand and had been working for a while. So I helped with the books and the business side and the merch side and the grants and stuff like that. And being in a larger band as a bass player, I didn't have to be super flashy. I just needed to sort of make sure Jer and I, the drummer, we stayed in the pocket, and we had lots of melody instruments with the violin and electric and keys to sort of fill some of those voids. So Jer and I just kept it simple, and I think that was sort of also a good thing, because sometimes you can make music a little more complicated than it needs to be. So we just kept it simple.
Absolutely. No, simple is definitely the best way. You find a lot of hit songs or just simple 3-chord songs, and a lot are even 2-chord songs. I want to talk about, I don't want to talk about your first, I'm assuming you guys did a lot of rehearsing with the Strumbellas, but your first time walking out on, let's say, a decent sized crowd stage, maybe who it was you opened for. We could talk about that too, and what the feeling was like. I'm sure you were nervous. Everybody is. I found when I used to come out, I'd be nervous for a song or two. And once I see a smile or two or applause at the end of a song, then you start to feel a little more comfortable. What about your first experience?
Yeah, I think some of my first experiences were, we did a lot of farmers markets at the start within Toronto, which was super fun. And, like some nights at the Horseshoe Tavern or the Silver Dollar or the Transat Club. So they're, pretty small crowds, but, for me, yeah, absolutely nerve wracking. Like even if it was a farmer's market and people weren't paying attention, I was like very, very, very nervous. And it took a number of years, I would say, until, maybe 5 or 6 years in, as my confidence and playing skills on bass just got kind of better and better. And I think, like you noted early on, is, we play with a lot of energy. We always have. We kind of, every time we finish this show, every single one of us is kind of soaked with sweat, and we kind of put it, leave it all out on the stage. And I think that was kind of what I learned to get over my fear in some of those early days. Was I just decided to play and just have the best time I could on stage, and just forget about what people thought, or whether I made a mistake or whether I missed a note. Just go up there and show them that, I'm giving it 110% and I'm having a great time up here. And at the end of the day, what the band really felt was that then people really kind of fed off of that energy that we provided. And that was kind of the key for me to really get over any of those nerves over the years, is just go out there and have the best time you can and work as hard as you can.
Well, that's one thing that a lot of the write-ups speak of you, is you're a very hard worker at this, and it shows. Young Dundas Square. Okay, so you the Horseshoe Tavern, you did the Peterborough Folk Festival, but here's something impressive. You did a full-length album, debut album, My Father and the Hunter. It was released in 2012, independently, I must say, and recorded at Metalworks Studios, super famous studio, Mississauga, and it was nominated for a 2013 Juno Award in the Juno Award for Roots and Traditional Album of the Year group category. That must have been kind of exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. That was our first record. We worked with Cone McCausland, who was the bassist of Sum 41. And we actually did part of that. We did some of it at Metalworks, and then we finished the record at the Woodshed, which is Blue Rodeo Studio, which was super fun. But yeah, that was our first taste of, like, how do we put a record together? How do we get enough songs? How do we make this whole package come together and then, present something that we can, go to publicity with, or go to the, magazines with, and try to get some buzz around the band, and then head on a tour. It was like not long after that record, we started touring Canada. We started going to the West Coast and coming back. And, that was really where it all started. Up until that record, we were really just playing around Toronto, and, we would sort of dip into Peterborough or do a show in Lindsay, where we're from, but mostly farmers markets or the Horseshoe, or just opportunities that presented itself. And then once that record got done, it was like, okay, let's go hit the road and see what the rest of Canada thinks.
Absolutely, and what a great job you guys have done. That was 2013. You were nominated for a Juno Award, but in 2014, you guys signed with 6 Shooter Records. You released your second album, We Still Move on the Dance Floor, in 2013, produced by Ryan Hadlock. And We Still Move on the Dance Floor won 2014 a Juno Award in the Juno Award Roots and Traditional Album of the Year group. Man, there's your first one. How cool is that?
Yeah, that was an absolute honor. We were definitely heartbroken after the first one when we didn't win with My Father and the Hunter, the first record. So, going back the next year and having an opportunity to win And then winning was like, yeah, we were, over the moon, just blown away. The fact that, we were recognized by the community to have put out a record that just kind of connected. And that was the record. We Still Move on Dance Floors was the record that really started to take us into, where we started to get some more radio success within Canada. A song called Sailing really helped with that. And, we recorded with Ryan Hadlock, who had, that studio was in just sort of close to Seattle. We had toured out west with a band called the Tom Fun Orchestra. And then we dipped down into Seattle and recorded that record with Ryan. And he had just recorded Ho Hey by the Lumineers. So we were pretty stoked to be working with him and in his studio, and we're able to get that record done. And really that was a launching pad as far as us getting the Juno win, and then starting to tour more and starting to play, not in front of 100 people, but we were playing in front of 500 people or 1,000 people throughout the country. That was sort of when things started to, in our minds, we're like, man, maybe we can do this for a living. Like maybe this is going to happen,
Absolutely. And it's always so amazing to get that one record, or, you start off with a record, it slowly does a little bit of stuff, but you get that one record and it gets a song off it that kind of launches you into a different level of touring, like as you say, and performing and touring, and you maybe not even driving around in little vans all cooped up together in one little van anymore. So that's kind of a good thing as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. We were able to upgrade to, I think we bought a band van at that point, opposed to using like one of our minivans. And then we were starting to see some of the festival world as well. Some of the folk fests and stuff throughout the country. We have some amazing, we have a really good festival scene throughout all of Canada. So, that was like the introduction of like, getting a little bit bigger van, a little bit, can take a little bit more gear, a little bit more merch, seeing a little bit more money on the show guarantees. It was very exciting. It was a really exciting time. Absolutely.
For sure, man. And good for you, because it's always so heartwarming to see our local Canadians get up and work hard and play music, and then something good comes out of it. So good for you. Here's what I want to do, Darryl. I want to play your latest, or the Strumbellas' latest single. It's called Greatest, sorry, I forgot the T on Greatest. So it's called Greatest Enemy. This was released early 2021, I believe. And again, it's your latest, it's Strumbella's latest single. I want to go ahead and play that. We'll come back and talk about it after.
Sounds great.
Folks, I have Darryl James on tonight's show, and we're going to hear one of his songs from his band Strumbellas, Greatest Enemy, right here on this House of Musicians radio show on Reality Radio 101.
I've been going back to that place again. Makes me feel good again. Finger on the trigger of a gun with a broken pin. This is my greatest love. Sorry I messed it up. Please give me a reason why I shouldn't just be giving up. I don't wanna feel this come down. I don't wanna feel this come down. I'm trying to break out of this feeling like I'm in a casket. I can't get past it. All of this madness. I wanna set my past on fire. I'll strike a match, and I don't wanna feel this come down. I don't wanna feel this come down. Feeling like I can't be anything I wanna be, but I know
Welcome back, folks. I have Darryl James on the show from the Strumbellas, and also his new project, Close Kicks, which we will talk about here shortly. Darryl, I just want to ask you about Greatest Enemy, how that came to be. It's a great song. Like I said, high energy, happy kind of band. Crowds always clapping and whistling and moving along with your songs. But how did Greatest Enemy come about?
Greatest Enemy was a little different than normal. Normally Simon kind of sends the band some melodies, and we kind of piece them together a little bit and help with the lyrics and, form it instrumentally. But this one happened, we were on tour in 2019, sort of early on. And Sai had been in LA, and he worked with Steve Aola, who's he's a guitarist in 30 Seconds to Mars, who's the Jared Leto's band. And he was just doing some sessions in LA. And he had written that chorus, and him and Steve sort of combined to kind of flesh out a little bit of the first verse. And so that's kind of where it started. And that was kind of the demo. That was the first time the band had sort of sprawled out to kind of include another writer outside of the band. And yeah, we just had that. So that song had been sitting around a bit. And then as with the pandemic was, we're sort of in full force, and there wasn't a lot going on in the early stages. We started sort of sharing some music, and that song sort of got shared, and the band got into it. And we decided to sort of finish it off. And when last fall, when COVID sort of had eased up a little bit, before the next lockdowns, I guess in January, we were able to kind of get into the studio in October and get that song recorded. We finished the verses and the lyrics and got the bridge done and got our instrumentations laid down. And we worked with Dave Schiffman, who had recorded our record Hope, in which our biggest song Spirits was on. He produced that record. So he was in the city at the same time last fall. So we were able to jump in the studio with him again and get the song done.
Absolutely. And that's, again, I just want to repeat what you said. That's the third studio album. Let's talk about Spirits for a minute. Third studio album, Hope, released April 22nd in 2016, I believe. Spirits won a Juno Award Single of the Year, international hit. Spirits won international hit, double platinum in Canada, gold in US and Germany. This is so impressive. 120 million Spotify streams, 54 million YouTube streams worldwide. Man, tell me about Spirits and how you guys felt after that song picked up.
Yeah, thank you. Spirits is a weird one because that record came out, like you said, in April of 2016, but we put Spirits out to Canadian radio in August of 2015. So we hadn't put the record out. We put Spirits to Canadian radio. No Canadian radio liked it. No one would add it. We were pretty worried, but we were also finished this record that we wanted to shop to US labels. We were signed in Canada to Six Shooter, but we really wanted to find some US support. So, that song was kind of just sort of sitting on the internet, really. Just, we had a lyric, I think a lyric video is still up for that. We had a lyric video sort of lingering around and through Facebook or different social medias. This is kind of the story we heard. It just sort of started to make, connections with different people in the US music industry. And literally we almost thought our careers were done. We were like, hey, this is a record that's going to break us, but no one was interested. And then all of a sudden in November of 2015, we went from 0 US label offers to probably 10.
Amazing.
Just they all came in, and some people were like, we don't like the Guns line. You got to change it. And, we're not sure we like the record, so we might have to re-record it. But Glassnote Records came in, and whose owner is Daniel Glass. They had Mumford & Sons, they had Childish Gambino, they had Phoenix on their label, and they basically just came in and said, we wouldn't change a thing. We love the record. We love everything about it. We think Spirits is a hit. They flew up to Toronto. They saw us play a show at the Horseshoe Tavern. They loved their live set. and they were like, let's do it. And so I think we finalized that deal with them by mid-December of 2015, and they released Spirits on US radio January 2nd. So a couple weeks later of 2016, and K-Rock added it, which is an LA-based sort of alternative station, one of the biggest stations in the States. They added it right away. And we were on Jimmy Kimmel within 4 weeks, and playing like Grammy pre-parties within 5 weeks.
Amazing.
Like, that's how fast it took off. Like, I one of the analogies people sort of say with if you do have a success at that level, it's like, it's kind of like a rocket ship. You know, when a rocket ship takes off, it's sort of like expending all this fuel, but it's not moving anywhere yet.
Mm-hmm.
But once it goes, it just like, it's gone. And
right.
that really is kind of how it felt for us. It's like all these years of building and working and spending all this time and money was just like building. And then right, the perfect moment, that song just made sense, obviously within the US market and with a lot of the programmers, and just boom, it took off. And 2006, the remainder of 2016 is, definitely a highlight from playing. We played Stephen Colbert as well, The Late Show. We played Jimmy Kimmel. We did Grammy pre-parties. I think we went to Europe 5 or 6 times. We played a ton of big shows throughout the US with Red Hot Chili Peppers and, Blink 182 and, just all these bands you sort of Weezer, you idolize sort of kind of growing up. All of a sudden we were on stages playing radio festivals with all these bands. It was just an incredible moment to be part of. It was really, really, really special.
For sure. And I just love hearing stories like that. I'm sure there was a lot of handshakes within the band and hugs and just a lot of smiles, guaranteed.
Oh, absolutely. It was, all of that hard work and effort. It really brought us together, but also tested us because, we all had families at that time, and, we were gone a lot. It was like, here's our opportunity and here it is. And it was full on. And, it was a lot. It was the taxing number of years having, the success of that record. I think, I can't remember the exact numbers, but I feel like we might've been gone, 180 days or something that year, if not more, 200 days or something. It was an intense year for sure. And hard on the families, and just tiring. It's an honor to be there, but it's definitely a challenge when we were all a bit older and had our family started and had those things. So it's definitely a lot of challenges as well.
Oh, guaranteed. Yeah. It's you have to put your whole heart and soul into it, I guess, when you go on tour. No doubt about that, and hard work. Now, in September 2019, the Liberal Party of Canada adopted your song One Hand Up, which originally appeared on Rattlesnake. And it was a campaign anthem for Prime Minister Trudeau's campaign. How cool is that? How did you know how that happened?
Yeah, that was just, Justin's been a fan of the band, for a while. He's always known the band, and I guess he just kind of knew the record and knew that song, and that was something that we'd never really sort of stepped into the political theater at all, and we did have some problems with the French translation. We hired someone to help us translate the song and sing it. Unfortunately, I think a lot of the Quebec just French speaking didn't like the translation, and it didn't go over that well. So it was kind of like an interesting exploration for us into that kind of political world and going, but it was an honor to, for Justin and to be part of something like that and have our music showcased. But definitely came with some interesting, like I said, back end with trying to, change the lyrics over to French and then make it, sing it properly and have everything. It was definitely tricky and didn't land as good as we wanted.
Yeah, and you can completely understand how that could happen. But sometimes, negative response is better than positive response. So I'm sure it didn't hurt you guys in any way. Like I say, a lot of negativity that happens with rock stars and whatnot seems to do them well. So hopefully it did for you guys.
Yeah, it's true. It does get the discussion going around the band. That's for sure. And there was lots of discussion online about the band and the translation and stuff. So it was definitely like, it's one of those things that we never frowned upon. Like, we tried it, we did it, we put our best foot forward, and you know what, you learn. Like, that's sort of how it all is. You have to kind of do these things and go through them to learn, and how you do things, how you change in the future, and no regrets. It was still a great opportunity and great exposure.
Absolutely, for sure, and good for you again. How did you guys come up with the band name Strumbellas? Curious to know that.
It's, you know what, it was strangely just Simon. It was just like, I think at the time he said, it's actually a very contentious issue in the band, because we've never really liked the name, but we could never come up with something to beat it.
Right.
So it always sort of stuck. So because it's like, it's a name that, like, we've gone to, like, our band name's on the marquee. We're headlining a show and they spelt it Strumbellas, right? Or they forget they forget the R in strum. It's Strumbellas. And like, right. We've had that like so many times, like so many spelling mistakes. It's kind of just funny at this point in the band. But I think the way the word came up early on was, Simon just played guitar and he had an umbrella and he just kind of combined the two words. It was just as sort of loosey-goosey off the cuff as that. And it was, Simon and the Strumbellas was kind of like an early idea he had. And then we just evolved it to the Strumbellas. And like I said, we just couldn't figure anything else out that was better. And then that's what stuck. And it's a unique band name. There's no doubt about that.
Absolutely. It sure is. I want to ask you what your creative writing process is like. For me, I'll pick up an acoustic and record some riffs on my phone and maybe come back to it 2 or 3 weeks later. And if I like it, turn it into a song. I probably have 100 of them on my phone. What's your creative writing process?
Yeah, it would be similar to that. It seems to be sort of ever evolving a little bit, but voice memos are a big one. Just kind of like, we work really hard, especially in the band. We work with melody first, and then we sort of fill in the lyrics after. We're very big lovers of the hook. It's really kind of what we strive for. And sometimes it's hard to fill in the lyrical side because you got to fit the right lyric into that hook. Whereas I know other people will have the right lyric and then build the hook around it. But I think for me personally, that's one way I do it. I sit in front of my guitar and I bounce out melodies. I also, like, with the software and stuff that's available now, I've been starting to put more into like my computer and put an idea down, and then I just sing different melodies over it. I just try, because I'm not playing an instrument and thinking about it. I can only think about the melody, and I just start to brainstorm a whole bunch of different hooks or melodies around that chord progression. And then sometimes I'll even just like cut and paste and piece it together and move it around. I found that works sometimes when I'm stuck. So I think there's like a variety of ways that whatever you can do to get the song where you want it, you kind of start chasing anything to get it there.
Agreed. And have you written any songs with the bass as the main instrument to write a song?
You know what? No, it's not something I've been able to really I don't know why that is. It's probably something I should try over time, but acoustic and the piano are really sort of my go-to as far as of coming up with melody. Absolutely.
Darryl, let's talk about, now you're doing a little side project because, well, let me ask you this. I'm sure you're intending to do some more touring with the Strumbellas are probably ready to get out there and tour. I think you said you had a date. I believe you said in December or September, or maybe it was December. But anyway, talk to me about Well, first of all, let me ask you this. When COVID hit, were you guys on tour?
No, COVID, we were not on tour. We had just recently canceled the tour. Just prior to COVID, Simon had been struggling with some mental health. And again, the number of grueling years from that 2016 onward, we had just finished a very grueling tour schedule after the release of our record, Rattlesnake. And we were just about to do a cross Canada tour in January of 2020, and we had to cancel, unfortunately. And so in a strange way, COVID, as bad as it was for the world and in a situation, it was actually not the worst thing for us in the Strumbellas, because we needed a break and we needed to work with Simon and help him get better and be supportive and not have the pressure of kind of, you know, our labels or any of our teams saying like, hey, when you getting back out on the road, when you going, like when you working on stuff, because no one could go, no one could do anything. So in a very weird way, COVID actually for our band gave us a break we needed, and it was without the sort of the external pressure that might have been sitting there with, you know, without COVID, that would have been like, hey, when are you going to come back to work? No one was going back to work. So it sort of gave us enough time to really sort of get better. And that's, you know, when we went back into the studio in the fall of 2020, we were able to get in and do that and record Greatest Enemy and then get the song out and allow it take its course, and still no touring at this point. We're still able to just, you know, we've been doing some acoustic performances online and different interviews online, but none of that sort of grueling road life.
Yeah, sure. And how's Simon doing now? Are you guys planning on touring?
Yeah, absolutely. Simon's doing better every day. He's working super hard. Our band dynamic is really healthy right now. Like, we are getting along great. We're communicating regularly. It's a really nice time in the band. And he's, every day, like, mental health's challenging. It's challenging every day. You know, you have good days, you have bad days, and that just doesn't exist with Simon. That all of us have experienced mental health challenges and anxiety and things on the road. And I think we've all taken, really, hard look at our mental health and have really all tried to like hone in on how we can all be stronger, being more supportive to everyone in the band, but also how we can, improve our own mental health before we head out on the road. And that's what we've all been working on.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, it cannot be easy. And you see the demise of so many people that have stepped up the ladder in the business and are touring and doing big shows. There's so much involved with it that definitely can be grueling. So it's so easy to see how that can easily deter people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is. You got to take care of yourself. And it's just not easy, especially when you're away, as you build and grow your family and then you're away from them. It's like, it's nice to have the success and to play in front of big crowds, but it's also, it can get lonely and you miss your kids and you're missing moments of your kid's life. So it's a very push and pull. There's a struggle that is very real.
Absolutely. No doubt about that. Let's play a song. I want to talk about your side project now. And let's play the song first. We'll come back and talk about it. How does that sound, Darryl?
Sounds great.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. And folks, I have Darryl James, two-time Juno Award-winning songwriter and bass player, Darryl James, on this evening's show. For those of you that may just be tuning in right now, we're going to listen to a little side project he has going on called Close Kicks. This was released in 2021, and it's a song called The House We Built, right here on this House of Musicians radio show on Reality Radio 101.
It's more than these four walls. It's more than just bricks and paint. It's more than just diamond rings. and championship parades. Cause everybody's got a little glory, and all of those highlights fade. What we got here between us, nobody can take away. This is our hope, this is our strength, this is our blood, all of our dreams. This is the house we built, this is the house we built. All of the years, all of the crowds, blood, sweat and tears standing on now. This is the house we built, this is the house we built. You gotta earn it every day if you wanna get it right. The seconds ticking down, you shooting out the lights. Cause everybody's got a little glory, and all those highlights fade. You gotta grab the headline story if you wanna see the Hall of Fame. This is our hope, this is our strength, this is our blood, all of our dreams. This is the house we built, this is the house we built. All of the years, all of the crowds, blood, sweat and tears standing on now. This is the house we built, this is the house we built. Everybody's got another story when all those highlights fade. But what we got here between us, nobody can take away. This is our hope, this is our strength, this is the house we built. This is our hope, this is our strength, all of our blood, all of our dreams. This is the house we built, this is the house we built. All of the years, all of the crowds, blood, sweat and tears standing on now. This is the house we built, this is the house we built. This is the house we built. This is the house we built.
Hey, welcome back, fine listener. I have, again, two-time Juno Award-winning songwriter and bass player, and just an all-around fabulous musician. Great songs, high energy, happy band. Of course, the Strumbellas I'm talking about, but we just heard Close Kicks. That's an interesting name, Darryl, Close Kicks. I want to ask you about that, but we just heard The House We Built. Again, just such a unique style that you guys have. It's not like, you know, the styles that are out there today. You have your own, I would almost say, genre for that matter. But let's talk about Close Kicks and how you came about doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for playing that. Close Kicks, the name sort of evolved. It represents the relationships I've built writing songs. So I would say like they're my close kicks, like a good pair of shoes. They're like kind of meant to be together.
Cool.
That's kind of where Close Kicks came from as far as the name, because as the band kind of got success and started to, you know, tour and have, you know, be able to go on the road and make some money and then come home, I was able to kind of, I put a little studio together in my place. And then I started to, you know, head to LA and started to write with other writers. I wanted to sort of explore just the world of like, you know, what could I do? Who could I write with? What could I create? And just give me a different identity outside of the band. And, you know, I think I kind of really started to hone in around 2015. I've started collaborating with other writers, whether it be I met them on the road touring, or, you know, there are other local Toronto musicians that I was writing with or working with. And then then I started reaching out to our publisher to set up some other sessions. And I just sort of started piling in and getting all these co-writes. I think I have at this point, like at least 150, if not more, songs I've co-written with other writers. Amazing. And then what I started to do was realize, hey, it's like, hey, I wrote this song, now what? And it would be like, okay, well, I better produce it. I better do the instrumentation. I better try to figure this all out and learn how to mix it. And so that's kind of what I used all those songs for. I would, depending on how we wrote the song, I would always take my computer. We would track a vocal, whether it be mine or the other writers. And I would have I'd have it in my computer to a click track with a guitar and a vocal. And then I would just start to build production ideas. And just, I did that for years and years and years. And basically what that first song, The House We Built, I was supposed to head to Nashville last April and do some writing in Nashville and sort of touch on that market. I'd never done the sort of country Nashville writing sessions. I'd been to LA a number of times. And that obviously was canceled due to COVID, but I had a session with Kevin Griffin, who's the lead singer of Better Than Ezra, main songwriter and lead singer. So we just connected on Zoom and we wrote that song together in about 3 hours. And it was something that, lyrically, The House We Built was kind of around the idea of like, his band being, he had huge success in Better Than Ezra, in a different sort of time frame than I did, but it's sort of talking about, building something that's bigger than yourself and that's bigger than the building. It's like you have this big fan base, and it means, the world to you and how important that is and just how much of an honor it is when you can do something and grow something like from the ground up. And so we were able to write that. And that was just one of those songs that I was like, I love this song. And I just started digging in my studio. And that whole song was recorded, sang, other than my wife, she sang in the choruses, but I played and recorded everything on that entire song during the pandemic and then released it in January.
Good for you. And what a great song it is. Absolutely. Great song. I want to ask you, Darryl, a couple of quick questions. Favorite song to play on stage?
Favorite song to play on stage? Oh, man, there's quite a few. I sometimes like to dig into the old stuff. On the first record, we have a song called Sheriff. I love playing. And then there's another song called Hired Band, which is on our record Hope. I actually sing one of the verses live and love playing that one. But then again, Spirits, the big song Spirits is a fun one to play because the crowd, everybody knows Spirits. Kind of everyone's waiting for you to play it
right
at some point. So it's pretty fun to play because the crowd loves to get involved as well.
Absolutely. Great song. Darryl, tell me, I always like to ask my artists this, kind of put you on the spot a little bit, but it's my favorite part of the program. Tell me a crazy rock star story, man. Something that's happened to you on stage, something that's happened on a bus, on a plane, in the van. I don't know, just a crazy rock star story, something that stands out to you.
Oh, dear. Well, I think there's probably quite a few, but I would say one of the more sort of nerve-wracking, horrifying moments a little bit was when Spirits took off in the States and we went and played Jimmy Kimmel, right? So it's our first late night television where, you're there on late night, you show up very early, you get set up, you kind of do a sound check, and then you're kind of just like waiting for hours and hours and hours, 5, 6, 7 hours. So it's like, you can't go very far, but you're super nervous. And, we're just like, excitement is sort of through the roof. We get up on stage. The crowd's out in front of us because they have a little stage and a crowd there, and you kind of move away from the main set. And we're set up, and Jimmy goes into his intro, and he's like, here's this whole thing with Strumbellas. He goes, and this is their new single, Spirits, by the Strumbellas.
Oh,
so
no.
He says our name wrong. On like our first late night, he literally butchers our name, and we kind of like didn't know what to do. Like we had to go into a song, we had to go into Spirits, but we were absolutely flustered, like so flustered. It was like, I can't even explain. Like, it's just like, I think we all just went white. We looked at each other. but it was like one of those moments where like, you just got to play. You just got to play through it. And, you know, we did. I don't think it was our best performance ever with that as the intro. And then they redid the intro after, and strangely, because it's taped, they did let us play it again. So that was nice.
Wow.
We got the proper intro and got to play, because it is pre-taped, which was a good thing. But I'm telling you, that was a jaw-dropping moment that all of us, it literally threw us off, but taught us a lot, I think, after that, because you always encountered technical difficulties in these big moments that you don't expect. And one of the ways that you show you're a true professional is you just kind of play through it and you just let it bounce off your shoulder. And that was definitely a good learning lesson. Not so much like a crazy rock star story, but I guess more of a industry or, you know, perseverance style story.
Yeah, I can't imagine how it was with Kimmel's show, correct?
Yeah, it was Jimmy Kimmel.
I can't imagine how Jimmy Kimmel felt afterwards. Boy, did he say anything to you guys after? Like, holy mackerel, sorry about that.
Oh yeah, he came up and he shakes his hand and he totally apologized, and he was really a good sport about it, and definitely like, yeah, he was more than apologetic. It was just you know, one of those things. It's just one of those weird. It's definitely, like we said, it's an odd name. It's not really a word. And it's one that a lot of people get wrong, and it came to rear its ugly head right on late night TV.
Yeah, I think that name, though, stands out on its own and could be positive for the band. Absolutely.
Totally. I agree with that as well. There's no other name like it. So when you search it, we're the only thing that comes up.
Yep, absolutely. And so there's another segment of the show I like to do, Darryl, called, Well, Gary LaBar, what do you think?
Well, let me tell you what I think. First of all, I love Darryl's genre of music. That's my kind of music. I would love to tour with him, my band. It's fantastic. It's hard to find a genre, and it's kind of hard to put your finger on it, as you talked about, but it's wonderful music, put together well, excellent lyrics, and I mean that from my heart. I love it. And it's such a pleasure to talk to Darryl, who's had a lot of success in his life, and he seems like a really, really sincere, down-to-earth guy, and that's kind of a really good thing in this business, because it's horrendous, some of the people you meet. But good luck, Darryl. I hope we can meet sometime in person. That's great.
Absolutely. Thanks, Gary. Appreciate that. It's an honor to be here. It was really nice to, you know, just share my story and hopefully inspire other musicians to don't worry about how old you are or when you start. Anything's possible.
That's great.
Yeah,
great advice.
A lot of hard work, and off you go. Look at you. Absolutely amazing. I just want to go a little longer, if you don't mind, Darryl, because I want to ask you another question. The best jam you think you've ever played in? Could be with other artists. Best jam on stage you think you've had?
Oh, well, I think, you know, when you mentioned the Blue Rodeo tour, we would always come up on stage and sing Lost Together with Blue Rodeo. And, you know, although we weren't all playing instruments, towards the end of the tour, we brought up some guitars and stuff like that. But, you know, to stand side by side with Greg or with Jim and just be able to belt out that song. And that was a song for me. I feel like, you know, as I was transitioning out of the hip hop genre that I said, and was getting into more Canadian music, Blue Rodeo was one of those bands that I just absolutely loved and adored, and was a band I played acoustic covers on and loved. And then to get on stage and just sort of like belt it out with them is truly an honor. And I would honestly think that was probably one of my funnest, I think, overall, would be, you know, just up with them. But on another note, I'm just thinking of this right now, we played the Winnipeg Folk Fest, and we did a workshop, and we did a jam with Wooden Sky, who is also like a kind of a folk band, and Ruben in the Dark. And we're all sort of similar genres, all around the same age, all sort of, you know, striving for the same goals at that time, and happened to be at the festival. And we all sort of just jammed each other's songs. We just sort of picked one and went for a jam on that. So those collaborations at the folk festival are truly an honor as well.
Well, good for you. And, I wish Simon, David, John, Isabel, Darryl, yourself, Jeremy, I wish you guys the utmost, the greatest success. I know you've already had some really fascinating success, and I look forward to, my wife and I are concert freaks, so we look forward to getting out and see you guys when you're back at it, or Closed Kicks, if you're going to do something with Closed Kicks, either or. It'd be a pleasure to get out and see you play, and we wish you guys the very best. And again, it's an honor to have you on our show this evening. We're going to follow your progress, and maybe in a couple of years get you back on the show. How does that sound?
Oh, that sounds fantastic. Again, thank you for having me. This is an honor to be here, and happy to do it again. And we will definitely see you out, hopefully at a concert in the near future.
Absolutely, you will. And to the listener, I say thank you for being here, and always dance and sing, and let the music bring your soul to the surface for all the world to see. Until next time, have a shuffle your feet kind of week, and good night. You've been listening to this House of Musicians radio show on Reality Radio 101.